You guys all set? Okay. Welcome. We're going to call the Development Review Board meeting for May 13th to order. We're going to have, first agenda is roll call. All members present. Next, we're going to open a new public hearing for an administrative review for Robert Sullivan. Go ahead, Jared.
The application is sub 23-010. The applicant is Robert Sullivan. Property owner is Robert Sullivan. The project description is for an administrative correction to the notice of decision for a 3-lot subdivision on Prospect Street in the Village Residential District. Hearing date is today, May 13th, 2024. No public postings were required for this administrative correction, and I believe Chuck Peel is here as a representative for Mr. Sullivan.
Thanks, Jared. So if there's someone here to speak on behalf of the applicant, I got to swear you in since we are an on-the-record DRB. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Okay. Tell us about what you're here for today.
We were here last year for the same subdivision. We've got 3 lots that are buildable. We've got 2 lots on the river side of the road that are dimensionally meet the subdivision requirements, but are not buildable because they're 50% grades and very deeply in the flood zone. The 2 lots on the river side of the road are not mentioned anywhere in the notice of decision. It talks about a 3-lot subdivision, and from my understanding, the intention was that lots 1A and 2A be included as part of lots 1 and 2 because they're being sold together. But we've run into a problem where we can't sell any of these lots because the A lots are not mentioned in the notice of decision. So we've proposed as few changes as we possibly can to shoehorn the A's in so that they're shown and run that language by all the title carriers that we have access to, so that we can get these lots back on the market and hopefully somebody can build.
So we've got your letter here with your provided change that you requested. Was reviewed by Chris Callahan. I think you probably coincided, talked with him.
Yep.
And the only change that he provided was to remove all created lots conform to the 5,000 square foot minimum for residential permitted uses, in reference that it would imply that those lots that are named A would be buildable, which they're not buildable lots.
I picked that language up from the previous notice of decision, and if the board wants to pull it out.
Okay, you're okay with that change?
Happy to do that.
Any questions, comments from the board?
I just want to note that the property is divided by a town road. It's not contiguous, like 1A, 1 and 1A is separate.
They are, yeah, they're.
I'm just saying that for
Town
setback,
highway, yeah.
for setback reasons. You wouldn't use the lot 1A as setback for 1.
Correct.
Yep.
That's one on the record, that's all.
Any other questions from the board? I make a motion that we approve the changed language as an administrative review.
I'll second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
All right, have a great night.
Next, we're going to open a public hearing for Okemo Limited Liability Company for hearing additional evidence. Jared, if you want to read that over again for us.
This is application 288-05-CU, amendment number 2, 092-95-PUD, amendment number 4, and 478-20-Act 250, amendment number 2. The applicant is Okemo Limited Liability Company. Property owner is Vail Resorts. The project description is to reopen the hearing of the relocation of the Starlight Carpet for additional evidence. Hearing date is today, May 13th, 2024, 6 p.m. Public postings occurred at the town clerk's office, town hall bulletin boards, post office on April 17th, 2024, on the town website on April 26th, 2024, and in the newspaper of record, the Vermont Journal, on April 24th, 2024, and the abutting property owners were notified on April 25th, 2024. George.
Thanks, Jared. If you're here to speak on this case, we will swear you in since we're an on-the-record DRB. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do. Okay. How about we start with... Okay, so we received your letter about your, if you would step up to the podium, state your name for the record. I don't know your name, sir, so.
Oh, sorry, no, my eyesight's really bad. I wasn't sure if you were talking to me.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
hi.
okay.
Yeah, my name's Pasquale. Yeah.
We did receive your letter, so.
Okay.
You did meet the requirements to reopen the hearing to submit evidence, so we are here to listen to your evidence that you have.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you for reopening it. In response to my letter, I appreciate being given the opportunity to come and speak to you. I'm from Australia, so I apologise for my accent, and if you're having trouble understanding me, just or want me to repeat anything, just indicate, and I will. My wife and I live in the C building at 109 Akimo Ridge Road, adjacent to the proposed development. We're kind of a little bit of an anomaly insofar as the majority of the people that owners there just use it as a ski place. That was our intention when we bought it. We didn't know about this place 3 years ago and then when we did discover it, we absolutely fell in love with the town, with the mountain, and decided we wanted to buy a place here. So at that time, we looked at a couple of units in A and B building that were like, I think they were like $179,000 for sale. And we didn't buy them because we felt that it was too, there was a lot of crowds, there was a lot of noise. And then we let it go. And then about 2 months later, Suzanne Garvey, the broker, called me and said, look, I've got an apartment available. It's in C building. You might like it because it's in quite a location. So we went and had a look at it, and we absolutely fell in love with it. And what we loved about it was the fact that it was removed, it was isolated, it was on the ground floor, it had these beautiful trees in front of it. It was very, very peaceful. But the problem was it was significantly more expensive than the other ones, but we went ahead and we bought it anyway. Not with the intention of living here, but just with the intention of having it as a second home. Consequently, we've spent so much time here, it's actually become our primary residence, and we spend most of our time here. It's me, my wife, my dog, and my cat, and I absolutely love it. And when I found out about this development, I kind of got upset a little bit, because where the proposed development is going to be is actually like from me to from our balcony to where the curtain is over there. And so I feel it's going to be disruptive during the summer, during the construction, when we're here and we love it. And then I think long term, I think it's going to have a detrimental effect on us from a noise pollution point of view. It's going to bring more crowds, but more importantly, I think it's going to devalue our property. Had that have been there 3 years ago, I don't know if I would have bought it. Harry Hindsight's a millionaire, I know. But so I object to it for those reasons, and then also too for the fact that there are already 3 magic carpets on the clock tower side. You've got the three on the Jackson Gore side, and they're all like 150 yards away from Adam's house, Bixby House, and the Jackson Gore. They're nowhere near the residences. the ones that it currently exist on the clock tower side. There's one that's north up on the hill, north of A and B block, that doesn't affect anyone to my knowledge. And then the other ones are the Little Dipper and the Snow Star, which are on Okemo Ridge Road next to the head office, where the offices of Okemo, and they're not near any residences. So I just question the appropriateness of moving something that doesn't affect anyone to a location where it is going to have an effect on residences, even residents, even though there aren't many residents, but it's going to affect me and my wife. So I just wanted to communicate that and express that, and I thank you for the opportunity to be able to do that. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Does the board have any questions?
I don't.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Ted, we'll hear from Ted first.
I don't know what you would like for me to say, honestly.
Okay, I didn't know if you had any rebuttal or answer, since you spoke on behalf of.
No,
what they
the
said before.
only issue is that, you know, I just want to bring up is that the application that we have in front of the DRB complies with the zoning rules, and so I don't know what the objection would be to the proposed location for that carpet.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When this gentleman asked about the construction and the noise and stuff, could you address that part?
There isn't a lot of construction noise that goes on with the installation of a magic carpet. I brought a photo of a magic carpet installation in the last hearing, and there's a set of sleeper blocks that go down on the ground, and then, you know, they unroll the carpet. There's frames that they put together, so it's not like there's going to be a lot of jackhammering or big construction, concrete pours or anything along that line. There is some noise that goes along with it when you stretch out the carpet and that sort of thing, but, and there's, you know, there may be minimal earthwork to bury the power line for it, but that's it. It's not a big, extravagant, drawn-out construction project.
Ned, when this carpet is installed, like, what height is it going to be at?
It'll be essentially a grade level. I mean, the installation will take out if there's any dips or unevenness in the ground. The sleepers and the frames that they put down, they'll adjust for that, but you want a straight line. And the idea is that in the wintertime, as you make snow, so that it comes up to the level of the magic carpet. The magic carpet essentially blends into the grade of the trail and the snow surface. So other than a pedestal that sticks up for the stop and start button, you don't really see much of anything. It's not sitting up above the grade by several feet or something like that.
And then just to quickly, I'm looking at the drawing here. It looks like it's at the tree line. Are there any trees that are being removed to put
No.
this in place?
No,
Ted, what's there now?
nothing. I mean, it's grass. It's a grass slope.
Is it a ski slope in the winter?
Yep, it currently is used as a ski school training slope.
So will those skiers be diverted somewhere so they don't run over the little children on the magic carpet?
No. The whole idea behind the magic carpet is right now, the beginners have to climb up the hill and then ski down. And so just to help, you know, expedite movement is put the carpet in, people ski down, they get on the carpet, go up, and they just loop on the carpet that way rather than having to climb back up and then ski down that same
So
side.
in the same location, they're skiing there, going up and skiing down, is that?
Currently, yes, and it has been for decades.
George, there's a question on Zoom.
Okay, we'll hear from, well, actually,
So-
hold on Zoom, because we had one from the crowd first.
Okay.
So, thanks, Ted. We'll hear from Alan Couches first, and then we'll go to the Zoom one. Did you raise your hand?
I did,
Okay,
yes.
sorry, you were behind Ted, so.
That's okay, yes, I was duly sworn in. Alan Couch, 21 Meadow Street in the village of Ludlow. Ted, can you please address, I believe this is a 650-foot magic carpet. The the units on the C building, especially the 10 units on the lower side, are considered ski out? And can you address the potential bottleneck where the magic carpet might be close to the end units of the building by the first aid station, and how that might affect owners there, if you would? Thank you.
So first of all, it's not 650 feet, it's just 50 feet. So there's a big difference.
My mistake, I apologize.
No, that's all right. The bottom end of the carpet is actually tucked up the hill enough where it'll be in the island of trees, and people will still be able to get down and around the base of the carpet. So there shouldn't be an additional bottleneck or conflict with that.
Next, we'll take the question from Zoom.
Okay.
What's their name?
This is just anonymously from Kay in the chat window. It reads, does this application require a variance from setbacks requirements from C building to install this? So that would probably go to Ted. Yep.
Answer.
No, there's no setbacks, or there's no variance because it's not a residential building. So it's an accessory use.
Does anyone from the board have any other questions?
No.
Rose, do you have anything to add?
The person in chat, the name is Karen. There's no last name with it. So, I do not have any, there is another one being added over at Jackson Gore, or is it the one taken from this location and moved to Jackson Gore?
Right, so I made an error in the first set of drawings that I submitted. The carpet that's going to come out of Jackson Gore is the one that's going to go over to OMLC building, and then in the place of where the one was at Jackson Gore, they're going to put a 100-foot carpet in there.
I have another question.
Fire away.
Ted, I just again, so this is going to be primarily for younger skiers, children?
Correct.
Type thing?
Yeah, ski
So
school.
does that bring in a crowd, like mom and dad, and everybody's standing watching little Wally come down, taking pictures, all that sort of thing? Or
The little Wallies. No. There's no real perceived increase in skier traffic because of this, because we're essentially looping the same population of kids. So we aren't increasing the uphill carrying capacity of the lifts, because the carpets are limited by the speed of the motor and how fast the carpet turns over, not by the length. I hope that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get it.
Any other questions from the board?
I just have one. I know that, just because I hadn't heard the change on the Jackson Gore, we're not dealing with that with this hearing at all, the Jackson Gore change.
So we reopened the whole hearing because it was all part of
But
the
he's
warrant.
saying that it's going to replace the 50-foot with a 100-foot on Jackson Gore. We're not addressing that tonight, are we?
Yeah.
We are.
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's
Because
fine.
it was part of the previous one, and that was
Okay, I
just
just
a
don't-
drawing error, I think you'd call it. on
Okay,
the
thank
other
you.
one. Sure, go ahead. Please stand up to the podium so everyone can hear you.
Sure. Okay, thank you. I've noticed that, or a couple of questions. Will the other magic carpets have huts at the top and bottom? Will this have that?
No.
Okay, and I've noticed in the last week or so, there's a couple of stakes that have.
Correct.
Right. Is that the proposed location?
Yes.
Okay.
Generally speaking, yeah. I mean, we can move it one way or the other, slightly uphill or downhill, but within a couple of feet, that's where the top and bottom of the carpet will be.
Okay, so, and it's that close to the trees?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. That's different, it's different than the first, than the initial drawings. The scale of it is different. I'm not saying it's a criticism, just saying it's different. Okay, thank you.
So to clarify, I just want to say that after Rose got in contact with me after the last hearing, is I went out with Eb Kenny, who's the Senior Director of Mountain Operations, and he and I placed those stakes just so that Mr. Pasquale and the other residents at OML and other stakeholders, you guys, could go up and actually see where that carpet is intended to go. So that's why those stakes are there. We flag those, measure the distance in between to represent the 50 feet, and then we pulled distances off of OMLC building at the top and the bottom, and those dimensions are reflected on the drawings you have.
Just to put those on the record, we've got 64 feet from the bottom and 71 feet from the upper side.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Board questions?
I have one more.
Sure.
Does it make noise? Are they noisy? I have no idea what this
they're
thing is.
Very, no, you wouldn't hear it unless you were standing right at the motor that drives it. I mean, there's a little whirring noise with the operation, but it's,
So it's an electric motor?
yeah, and it's, I mean, if you're standing right next to it, you'll hear the belt going across the rollers, but you really have to be standing right on top of it to hear the carpets operate. They're really, really quiet.
Any more questions? Make a motion that we close the hearing for Okima Limited Liability Company.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Anything on Zoom?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Next, we're going to open a new public hearing for Winter Place COA. Go ahead, Jared.
This is application number 81-94-PRD, amendment number 19. The applicant is John Watanabe, and the property owners is the Winter Place COA. The application is to renovate attic space into bonus rooms for 3 units, Unit H303, O302, and P306. Hearing date is today, May 13, 2024, 6 p.m. Public posting occurred at the town clerk's office, town hall bulletin boards, and post office on April 17th, the town website on April 26, 2024, and in the newspaper of record, the Vermont Journal, on April 24th, 2024, and the abutting property owners were notified on April 26th, 2024.
Thank you, Jared. If you're here to speak to this hearing, please raise your right hand. You will be sworn in. We're an on-the-record DRB. Please repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Okay. Tell us about your project.
Got three loft units looking to expand their existing loft from conditioned space to, or unconditioned space to conditioned space. This is a continuation of the expansion of loft build-outs throughout about a total of 60 units, where we've got about 40 more that would still be eligible.
So can you just walk us through the kind of the changes that you provided on the plans?
Sure. So on each of them, they're all slightly different, but square footage in the area of about 250 to 300 square feet. They're building out into what's common space currently, and it's what's qualified and what we've initiated as a bonus room space. So, and that consists of no sleeping, no plumbing, no bathrooms.
Any questions from the board?
Are you aware of the Ludlow ambulance that they just asked that there's no spiral staircase unless there's another means of egress?
I'm sorry, there was no spot. Yeah, none of these
I know they
particular.
didn't show that, but she wrote that in her letter. Did you see that in her letter?
I did not.
Is that understood, that she doesn't want spiral staircases?
You can have my letter.
I haven't seen the letter, so.
I'll
Julie, can you read the letter to him?
Sure. To whom it may concern, this letter is in regards to the attic remodels in unit H303, O302, and P306 at Winter Place. We request that all units are marked per E911 standards on the outside door to the unit, as well as the building clearly numbered in reflective numbering visible from the roadway. The attic units may not use a spiral staircase unless there is another means of egress from the attic space that would allow the use of a stair chair to extract potential patients from that section of the unit. The space should also not be used as a bedroom. At this time, Ludlow Ambulance has no problem with this project. We wish you great success in the project. Please let us know if we can be of further assistance to you. Stephanie Grover.
No, that's fine. And in the case of all of these, again, the spiral staircases do not apply.
John, the fire department requires a permit from the Vermont Division of Fire Safety. Sprinkler coverage to be modified to cover all bonus rooms. All bonus rooms that do not have an egress window installed shall not be used for a bedroom or sleeping area. You testified they won't be used for bedrooms.
Correct.
So you're aware of these other two
Yeah.
conditions?
And I think Pete has outlined at least, I think we had 2 units that would be eligible for an egress window that we would put into 2 of the units here.
Kind of on a little side note, but we've seen a lot of these come through
Yeah.
over time now. Do you have any process in place from your world that you can assure us that they aren't bedrooms? How do you know they're not turning into bedrooms as we
There's no
speak?
process that we have in place.
There isn't?
No. I'm not so sure that process could be in place on any complex on the mountain.
And I'm just thinking, because there was a fire
Well, I
a
mean,
couple of years ago, and the chief was quite concerned because had the fire just moved over a little bit, there were people in a part of the condo that shouldn't have been sleeping in part of this condo.
I
And
agree,
they would
but-
have been trapped.
I agree, and we've agreed to the conditions of the permit. And just for the record, the State Fire and Safety has granted approval for those units to be occupied for sleeping, although we've agreed at the local level that that's not going to be the case.
Other board questions? Do you have any other questions for us?
Nope.
I make a motion that we close the hearing for Winter Place COA.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
This is on that. If we need to, we can share something.
Next, we're going to open a new public hearing for Ronald Kemperly. Go ahead, Jared.
Application is number 500-24-SITE. The applicant is Terrigenous Landscape Architecture. Property owner is Ronald Kemperly, from what I understand. Project description, the application is for a site plan review for a residential landscaping project in the Mountain Recreation District. The hearing date is today, May 13th, 2024, 6 p.m. Public posting occurred at the town clerk's office, town hall bulletin boards, and post office on April 17th, 2024, and the town website on April 26th, 2024. Also in the newspaper of record, the Vermont Journal, on April 24th, 2024, and the abutting property owners were notified on April 25th, 2024. Jordan.
Thanks, Jared. For those that wish to speak at this hearing, you'll be sworn in. Please raise your right hand after me and repeat. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do. Okay.
George, before you start, if anybody on Zoom wishes to speak, do they also need to be sworn in?
Yes, they do. Was
Okay,
there
I didn't know if
someone-
they were aware of that. I don't know if
Yep,
anybody,
they are.
okay, thank you, I didn't know.
So if there's anyone that's.
Nobody
Keeping
raised
an
their
eye
hand.
on hands.
Yes,
and
that's part of Jared's deal. He's kind of keeping an
Thank
eye on
you,
that.
thank you, I just can't tell from here.
So someone here to talk about your project. Everybody tell us what you want to do.
Hi, my name is Scott Wonderly. I grew up in Saxton's River. I've been running Terrigenous Landscape Architecture for 26 years in Chester, Vermont. We do a lot of different projects. I also represent the Vermont chapter of the American Society of Landscape Architects and the Urban and Community Forestry Council. So we come at these projects from an ecological and sculptural perspective. About, I think it was 2021, we were working on the first house on the left as you go up the Sachem lift, Ed McDonald's house, and Ron Kemperly stopped by one day and said, we'd like a path, a wall, and a patio. When could you do it? We said, well, it'll be about 3 years. So 3 years have gone by, and over that period of time, the project took on a character, which is what in the studio we refer to as an ode to winter, a series of snowflakes coming down the hillside that are complemented with the removal of grass and the plantings of native plants and shrubs. The stonework will be all dry set with a Technoseal filler. And the pond is proposed to be dug out with a protective liner, but the overflow pipe will stay as it is now, and there'll be an overflow kind of riprap section added in case that floods. I know in Ludlow right now, is all over Vermont, there's a lot of concern about erosion and storm damage. The way the grading plan works, all of the water after construction and during construction will go into the pond, so we have control of the of any silt, although we'll try to minimize that. Construction is proposed to start at the bottom and work its way up with plantings in phases, so we'll plant as the stonework kind of goes up the hill. There'll be some temporary access roads put in to make sure you don't have equipment stuck in the mud and those type of issues. There are some trees coming down to open the view, but a fair amount of plants being replanted and removing almost all of the lawn mowing. You'll be able to see the features that we're building from the chairlift, so we think it'll be an addition to the ski area before it actually starts snowing hard and when there's fall events or summer mountain biking. Other than that, it's really a sculptural project, something we expect the family to enjoy. Ron is sharing this property with his daughter that would like to use the building for the next generation. They've been on the mountain for a while, and they've been delightful to work with, and we're looking forward to the project, but we're happy to listen to any concerns or questions you might have about the process or anything else we could help with.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board?
I guess I just want to mention that we all went up and had a site review today, so we got to see the lay of the land and how it was situated, which was really helpful.
Yeah, and there were stakes put out at the center of each of the features. Hopefully you could orient yourself. It is a little tricky to work over that hillside, but we'll be bringing in a crane to set a lot of the rocks to minimize the amount of driving up and down the slope.
Are you going to make this deeper than what it is now?
The pond is very shallow now because it hasn't been dug out in a long time, if ever. So it will be deeper, but the proximity to ledge there, we're not thinking it can be that deep. There'll be a vertical rubber sheet put in to slow down any kind of bleeding of the pond through the dam, but the capacity will probably be very similar to when it was first built.
Do you know when it was first built?
I don't. We've looked back on the, Rachel.
It's in the 1970s. That's what
She said 1970.
70s, yeah. So you have no knowledge if the berm, the dam was engineered, or if an engineer looked at it or signed off on it, or?
No, there's no record of the construction of it that we've been able to find.
You mentioned water. I mean, you're aware that part of the mountain slid into the Okemo Marketplace last summer.
Yeah.
And that happened most likely because of a cumulative effect of little projects like this that are all over the place, where, drainages have been changed, water courses have been affected. I'm concerned about the dam, the berm. I mean, how can you assure us that the berm it's good, and when you dredge it and add more volume, you increase with your landscaping project, more water is going to be going into the pond instead of soaking into the ground. The drainage ditch, we have pictures of the drainage, the overflow pipe completely clogged and a disaster. You just mentioned that this fellow's had it for at least 3 years, so there's 3 years right there that nobody's bothered to look at the pond or the overflow pipe. What, can you assure us that this is going to be safe, that this is a good, safe thing for the houses downstream for Okemo Marketplace?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair question, and we've been asking ourselves the same question. Our thought was leave what's worked for a very long time alone, leave the overflow as it is, and then just add to that. We could pull it out and replace it with an engineered dam if you think that would be a smarter move. It seemed to us that if it's worked since the 70s, maybe.
But what's worked for the 70s is about to change. You're going to dredge the pond out, you're going to add more impervious surface, you're going to add more drainage coming into the pond. So it's changed. It's not what it was like in the 70s.
Yeah.
Just, when we were walking around there, those are the thoughts that came.
Yeah, underneath so the stonework will be all dry laid. Underneath that is like 18, well, it depends on where you are on the project, but about 1.5 feet of crushed stone underneath all of the stonework below grade. So that technically acts like a or like a dry well, really. You're giving a chance for the water to percolate down through the rocks and go into the crushed stone. We did add pipes in that, and you're right, it may, the way we've thought about it, we're actually slowing the water down. You're removing grass and putting in plantings, and you're leveling areas. So we thought it was a wash. If an engineering study is required, we'll listen to your recommendations, but it's a pretty small body of water. Granted, you're right, all these small bodies of water create what happened last summer, so understand the concern.
Yeah, but if that berm blew out, I mean, it's pretty common sense that that volume of water is going to come out pretty quickly and head downhill, and somebody's going to be affected somewhere by it.
Yeah.
Is the stand pipe, the overflow drain, going to be capped or screened or something so debris doesn't get in it anymore?
Yeah, so we were going to start with that pipe, and then if you look, there's a lower patio that's down next to the pond, and that pipe comes through underneath that stonework, and then it comes out on the face of the stonework. So the stone is actually protecting the pipe, and it's right there. We could clean it out. It'd be where the idea was that if in the summertime you could sit there and have your feet hanging in the water, or in the wintertime you could ice skate on it if you were so inclined to shovel the snow. But that pipe becomes part of that structure, so it's all kind of right there where you could access it. We had talked about sizing that up, but it seemed to make sense to keep that as small as it's been, so most of the time the water and the amount of flow stays the same.
So you have some type of screen cap over the top of it?
Yeah.
So what it looked like very recently, it won't look like that again when it was clogged?
Yeah, no, that's why Ron's been asking us for a while to clean it out and get in there, and that's all part of the project.
Yeah, okay.
So, One question is, based on the map here, it says so you've got an existing pond water line and then the proposed pond water line, and where you've got your, looks like a liner depicted. It looks like you're going to be extending further into the setback. Are you changing the shape, or can you talk to that?
Yeah, so the pond actually goes pretty close to the neighbor's property, if not over. And we're pulling the pond back away from the property line just to get away from that conflict, creating more room for plantings. The new house that was built just below the Kemperleys will be screened by some plantings on that section of land that you're recovering by moving the pond back.
So, because based on and maybe I'm just interpreting the drawing wrong, is your existing pond water line looks further away than the new line of the pond.
Yeah, it's am I describing this right, Patrick? The existing pond is very tight to the property line. So we're actually making the pond smaller, pulling that away, if I'm understanding your question right.
So, because my question is, it looks like you're enlarging the pond based off the design, which would have been on plan page 5. And maybe it's just reshaping, and that's where I'm curious. Because it looks like it's depicted with hashed lines, and maybe it's just a reshape, but that's
Let me make
just
sure
some
I'm on the right
clarification.
page.
Yeah, no. So referencing on the left-hand side, you've got the existing pond water line, and then what would be further out than that is the proposed pond water line.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So
Okay.
we're just changing the shape a little bit, but pulling it back away from the property line. But you're right, to get the shape, there's a little bit where it pulls in and a little bit where it goes out.
Okay.
The dark line is the rubber. You won't see that. It's just a vertical sheet.
What's the purpose of that? Why are you putting that in?
Well, the springtime you might not be able to see it, but many other times we've been up to the property, the water's dropped right out. There's almost no water in it. And he was hoping to be able to have a water feature in the summertime. We've done that on 2 other projects where, like if you do a rubber-lined pond, you got to cover it with material, and it's quite an ordeal. But we've had pretty good luck just cutting a vertical slot with a smaller excavator and then dropping a sheet of rubber down vertically and then healing it back together. And that rubber seems to do a pretty good job of sealing it up, but then you have all the kind of earth beyond that for plants on the edges of the pond. You're not dealing with punctures in the rubber, and it actually is a fairly effective detail. You will never see it. It's just in there to help. Well, it adds structure, but it also makes the dam more impervious.
On the berm, on the downhill side of the berm, near where that new house is being built, can you just talk about, are there going to be any plantings there or anything maybe that would help stabilize the berm?
Yeah, so there is a planting plan, but on that same sheet 5, you'll see the dark gray circles. The darker colors are the size the plants will be when they're planted, and the lighter circles are the mature diameter of the plants that are going in.
Do you have an idea what kind of plants or
Yeah.
shrubs, bushes, deciduous hardwoods, trees,
Yep.
conifers?
We'll dig up the planting. I believe it's sheet 12.
You got it,
I got the big one. I think you're right.
So on sheet 12, there's, in plan view, you see where the plants are going to be located. There's a key to each plant, and then there's a table that shows the key to the type of, or the botanical name, the common name, the size that's coming out of the nursery, the spacing, and the height of maturity, and the number of plants.
So this is what's on page 12? Yeah. Triple on page 9.
That's matured.
Right.
No.
The idea there was to screen the neighbor, to stabilize the bank, to just soften the stonework a little bit, and then on the house side of the pond to create an edge of kind of some planting just to detail the edge of the pond, but to create just a detail there that's more fitting of the pond, and then above that is a no-mow grass.
How much water do you think is going to go out the emergency spillway that you're putting in?
Well, in a typical year, I don't think any would, because we haven't seen any water go out of it. We haven't seen the water to the top of the dam in 3 years, with the exception of last summer. And even then, there wasn't any evidence that the water had actually crested. If you look at the actual watershed, it's cut off by the driveway and then the road just above it. So you're really just dealing with the water on the parcel below the house. It's a pretty small section of land. So we have many of your concerns, but we haven't seen that there's, even last summer, you didn't even see any like flat grass up there. We were surprised. If anyone saw it differently, we're happy to learn from you, but we couldn't see any evidence that even in the floods last year that the pond was impacted at all, just because of the way the water's cut off above it.
With all these patios you're going to build, won't that make more water go in the pond?
Well, it won't make more water.
Well, it can't soak
It could go
into it.
faster, I suppose, because they're hard and they're impervious, but they're not grass. What we were thinking of doing, the diagonal staircase that comes down through there, because of the grade, there's sections where you go up a step and then it's flat, you go up a step and it's flat, and that'll be hand-set ledge stone. And on the drawings, there was a Technoseal filler between those rocks, but listening to the concerns Jared shared, we were thinking we could remove that grout in that staircase, in those sections, and that would act like a way to slow down the water. The water, rather than running over the stairs, would drop down into the crushed stone bed below it. Seemed like nothing that'll compromise the project and might help some of those concerns.
When you're finished, how deep do you think the pond will be?
On the contour drawing, it looks like we're proposing about 5 to 6 feet. It's really not a very big pond. It's like a little place to like ice skate with your grandchildren, and really it's like a reflecting pool more than, the ledge is so close that you can't, you see it sticking right out of the ski trail. So this is where we're expecting we'll be able to dig. I wouldn't expect it to be much deeper.
So we do have one question from the crowd. Were you sworn in, Mr. Bates? No. Okay, so you got to swear you in first. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Okay.
I took care of Ron's house for many, many years. Before him too, Peter Murchill was there. The pond is very small. It doesn't hold water. You're not going to get a whole lot of water from overflow from it. He's right. You can almost walk through the pond. You're talking about a really small body of water. Barely enough room to skate on. Just wanted to make that point.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
Rose would like to say something.
Go ahead, Rose.
Okay, so I looked at all the maps and everything and, the pond, I think we talked about it today being enlarged a little bit and it being in the setbacks. So, when I was looking at the map, I noticed that the mountain recreation setback stops at a certain point, and then it must be that the residential or something comes into it, or is that the end of the property line? Because the map was a little confusing in that area. The second question I have is about the lighting that's proposed all around the landscaping. And I'm wondering if there was plans for lighting around the pond, all the little buildings that were being built, and the walkways so that they could walk at night? And if so, was the night sky regulations looked at for this particular project?
Yeah, no, those are fair questions. All the lighting that's proposed, and it's fairly minimal, we could have brought a light with us. They're little LED strips and they're full of cut off, downcast lighting. There is one electric line being run down to that lower patio where Ron was hoping someday they would add lights around the pond. Right now, there are lights up on pedestals, but those are getting removed. And on the drawing set, at the moment, there's no lights down around the pond, but there are a couple lights up in the parking area and in some of the details of the stonework to just kind of illuminate the stonework and make it a safe place to walk around, but it's all downcast.
So he does plan on putting lights around the pond at a later date?
The only thing we have on the drawing right now is a piece of conduit going down there. So if he wanted to add anything, he could come back to the board if necessary to get approval for it. But there's no lights down there on the drawing set now.
Okay. And the setback, can you explain the pond? I know it's 8 feet 3 inches from the property line, and obviously that doesn't meet the setback conditions, and a pond is a structure in our definition, which is an assembly of materials. So if you are enlarging that or adding to it, I'm wondering, if that is encroaching upon the setback. It's up to the board to talk about that. But on the plans, I noticed that you had a line going through part of that area that was saying mountain recreation. And is that the end of the mountain recreation, are you saying, or was that the end of the property line?
That would be a question for Mr. Jarvis, who's sitting in the audience. I think they're talking about this line.
Yeah, so that inside line is the setback. The property line is on the outside of the pond. What we're doing with this by filling in a little bit of the existing pond is actually putting the edge of the pond closer to being within the, or outside of the setback, as opposed to right now where it's almost at the property line. But we're not really changing the shape, we're just doing maintenance on the pond, really. We're just excavating out what's been filled in over the years. And then filling in that one corner that is really close to the property line.
So the stone walls that you're building, those are also within the setbacks? Some of
Yeah, they're quite a ways. The stonework's quite a ways from the property line.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional questions from the board?
None for me.
Is there electric down there now? I thought I saw a light.
Yeah, they've got lights on posts kind of all over the place. That'll get pulled out.
Any other questions? Rose, anything else?
No, I'm just worried, about the night sky regulations. We have instituted that on many projects, and I want to make sure we don't have a glowing effect coming from up there like we have from other projects in the past. That's all.
Yeah, the lighting is fairly subtle.
I make a motion that we close the hearing for Ronald Campurli.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Have a good night. Next, we're going to open a new public hearing for Lisa and Mark Stewart and Kathleen and Lee Elmaker. Go ahead, Jared.
Since Rose has the folder, I will have Rose read.
Go ahead, Rose.
Information. Thank you. Can't hear you. Mute button's on. Mute button, Rose. Rose.
Gotcha.
There you go.
This is application S01-24-AP. This is a application to appeal an approved building permit for a single-family residence. Right now, the address is just 00 Gill Terrace. The hearing date is today, May 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The public postings were in the town clerk's office, town hall bulletin board, the post office, and the town webpage on April 17th, 2024. The newspaper of record is the Vermont Journal. That posting was on April 24th, 2024. Abutting property owners were notified on April 24th, 2024. And the appellants, I believe, are here. I believe Kathleen Elmaker is here. And I'm not sure who's in the audience, but she's on Zoom right now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rose. All those that wish to speak to this hearing, you got to be sworn in. Since we're on the record, please repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do.
I do.
Okay. How about you start off by telling us about your reason for appealing?
I'm listening, Mark. Going to start.
Good evening, I'm Mark Stewart, 5 High Street, right on the corner of Gill Terrace. We had a couple concerns. First, when the property was subdivided, although I guess our concerns, I'm a bit unfamiliar with the process. I guess our concerns are addressed when there's a building application put forward. So I'm going to just put forward a couple of my concerns, and my wife can probably help me out. One of my main concerns would be the gradient of the hill. Gill Terrace is a steep road, and the lot behind us is quite steep. And water, I've been at that house, my wife and I have been in that house for 30 plus years. I've been in town for 40 years. So I'm pretty well-versed on the amounts of water coming down Gill Terrace and down that lot. Back when I bought the house 30 years ago, I did quite a bit of landscaping. It was in the spring, when it's generally the wettest time of year, the water would run through. I have a dirt basement, and the water would run right through my basement. It was just a washed down gravel hillside. With a pick and shovel, I terraced off my backyard, 1, 2, 3 terraces to mitigate the water coming through my house, and it made a considerable difference. Although recently with the storms we've been having, in the last couple of years, the 100-year storms are happening every 10 years, the water has created a bit of a problem. One of my walls washed out again, which was no big deal. I was able to fix it, but the amount of water coming down Gill Terrace is an issue also. With the storms, as you guys are all aware, Com Ave, North Hill is a big problem. South Hill, West Hill, it all comes down. Gill Terrace is also a problem, although not at the same scale as those other roads. The storm drains at the bottom are twice this summer and a couple times last summer were overwhelmed. The town's very good about cleaning out the storm drains and getting ahead of it. So that was one of my concerns, the gradient of the hill and the water. Like I say, I terraced off my backyard. The other issue I might have, I do have, is a privacy issue. My backyard, I have a hot tub, outdoor shower. My bedroom windows would be eye level with that. There are some trees there now which are compromised, some big maple trees, which would have to come down. They have to come down anyways. So I would have a privacy concern, whether it's shrubbery or fences or how that gets addressed. I'm not sure. One other concern I would have would be the character of the neighborhood. I don't think we're in a historic neighborhood, but High Street, some of the buildings there, the Black River Academy, the church, and where the Vermont Journal is, used to be the Black River Locker. That's all historic area, and I don't know, again, whether this even applies, but what would go in there for a house. We've seen no real plans of house design, where the water would go. If it does come off a roof in the driveway, it's either going to go into our backyard or it's going to go onto Gill Terrace, I suppose, down Gill Terrace and into those storm drains, which are already overwhelmed. So that would be another concern. Like I say, it borders a historic area. My wife and I have both, my wife's been very involved with the town. She helped she was instrumental in starting Streetscapes, which helped to, maintain the character of the town. And they raised money to put new street lights and trees in on the town green. So we're aware, and we understand that we have businesses in town and building is going to happen. We just want our issues addressed and put them out there so that they are addressed. Maybe my wife should speak. She can probably speak more to it. I just wanted to voice my concerns and answer any questions that you guys might have.
George, before she speaks.
Yep, go ahead.
She hasn't been sworn in yet.
She didn't raise her hand.
She didn't raise her hand.
You didn't raise your hand?
I did raise.
Yeah, she was sworn.
I swear to tell the
Okay.
truth.
Oh, we didn't see her.
I thought you had.
I
Go
watched.
ahead.
Okay, Leslie Stewart here, and the reason we're here tonight is because back in November of 2022, the people who purchased the house behind us had applied for a subdivision application. And we attended the hearing and vocalized our concerns about the subdivision, which was submitted with an application for a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. At the time, we were told, and we recognize and understand this to be true, that the subdivision hearing, because there wasn't an application for development or a building plan, you could only address the setbacks and deem whether the property was viable to be subdivided. It met the requirements to be a subdivision, and we were told we would be able to voice our concerns if and when someone applied to build a home. At the subdivision hearing, we were told maybe there's going to be a croquet court there. We can't do anything about that. When we see a permit, we will address all the issues. And we're not trying to be obstructive. We welcome new people into the neighborhood. We just, we live in an old house in the preservation district. And we just feel like the process up to this point, this is where we have a voice, but the permit's already been approved. And in my sense, and it's not a criticism, but it seems like a permit shouldn't be approved until the concerns are addressed. And we submitted a letter with our appeal going through the concerns and citing the references to the zoning regulations and whatever. And I'm assuming that's part of the record.
It is.
And that you have a copy of that. So we're just asking that given the amount of water issues we've had in the past year, the fact that Vermont is now ranked number 4 in the state for potential flooding issues and 27th, I believe, for storm issues, we just have real concerns about our home, our neighbors' homes, the street, the neighborhood, and everything else. And we're asking that you consider our concerns and help us look at a plan where we understand what's being built and what in writing are the water mitigation issues. You know, you can say you're going to build a retaining wall, but what does that serve if you don't see how the water is going to flow? And back to the trees, which have been a great screen between us and our neighbors behind us. One maple is dead, one maple is decaying, a cherry tree is dead, and we had a tree guy there several months ago who said they all have to come out with the exception of the 2 trees closest to the street on our property. So all that screening is going to be gone. I don't know if you have any questions for us or how we can expand on the narrative, but we're just looking for some consideration in this process to protect our interests. And, you know, and we cited references to when a building is built, there can be no undue influence to the abutters, and then the issues with the stormwater, and all the citations are in our memos. So we're just asking that you review those and consider our concerns.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Rose has a question.
Rose?
Leslie, those trees that you just mentioned, are they on your property? Trees that you and Mark planted?
They're on our property, yes.
The trees are like 200 years old, and they're technically on our property, but they're right on the property line.
They're compromised. The trees are on our property and they have to come down. They're gonna fall on if a house is built, they're on that house or on they have to come down. And I'm just concerned that we put a fence or arborvitae, somehow new screening. That was one of my concerns that I thought I'd mention. But the trees are on our property, yes.
Thank you. As the board knows, I did submit a defense for the approved zoning application. And I just didn't know if you wanted me to go over that, or if you want to go over it, ask me questions from it. I did email a copy to Leslie and also to Kathleen Elmaker, and I hope that they received it prior to the hearing. And I emailed a copy to everyone else on the board, and Jared and so on and so forth.
It's the board's purview. You want to hear Rose's defense first, or would you like to ask questions?
I'd like to hear Rose, so it gives us a complete picture.
Go ahead, Rose.
I'd also like
We'll
an
hear
opportunity
your
to
explanation
speak
of the defense.
I'm sorry, somebody's talking.
Kathleen's trying to talk.
Kathleen.
Sorry,
Kathleen also
someone-
just said something.
I'd also like an opportunity to raise my concern, so after Rose is done, if I could please have the floor.
Yep. And what was your name again?
It's Kathleen Elmaker.
Okay.
Elmaker.
And just to confirm, you were sworn in?
I was. sworn in.
Okay.
George, before we start, do the applicants have a copy of this email? Because we just received it
Do
tonight.
you need a copy of that? We've got an
Because you can
extra one
take this one.
here. Nope, I got an extra one.
Okay,
here
just
if you
so
wanna-
you can see what she's saying, I guess.
I
Go
did
ahead, Rose.
email it to all of you, but, okay, so this is the defense of approved zoning application number 24-017. It's for the property known as 00 Gill Terrace. They applied for a zoning application for a single-family residence on March 6th, 2024. I reviewed the application. I reviewed municipal sewer. It is for a 5-bedroom, and the water allocations that were all approved, the building plans that were submitted with it, the access permit that was approved by Ron Tarbell, and of course, the property itself. The application, after reviewing everything, was approved on March 22nd, 2024. At that time, and as soon as the contractor posted the permit on the property, the abutters appealed the zoning permit. The reasons stated for the appeal were stormwater and drainage, the grade of the Gill Terrace, the subdivision that was heard on November 2022 and December 2022, screening, exterior lighting, property width, and the driveway. Also mentioned was the lack of the foundation plans, engineering and hydrology studies, and the setbacks. So I'm going to try to address each of those issues, but the comments made by the DRB meeting in November and December of 2022 were in regards to a subdivision only. To address many of the issues listed in the appeal, it would have had to been done during a subdivision hearing if the applicant had shown development on the subdivided properties. At the time of the subdivision, there was no development listed at that point. So the DRB can't talk about it if it's not there. Approving the single-family residence did not require the items listed above that was mentioned. A single-family residence must have a conforming lot size in accordance to the zoning district, meet the setbacks for the zoning district, have approval of the municipal sewer and water, and an approved access permit. Also, the application must have building plans, exterior elevation, and floor plans. The zoning application that was submitted to my office included everything that they needed to be reviewed and approved. So in section 222, the zoning regulations, issue of a permit, the administrative officer shall issue a permit only upon finding that the proposed application conforms to these regulations. At the time of the permit was submitted, the building met the zoning setbacks for the district. It was 25 feet from the center of the road, 12 feet from the left side, 16 feet from the right side, and 96 feet from the rear of the property. The access permit was approved by the town highway foreman and the town manager. He signed off on it. So the curb cut will be 30 feet wide, but the driveway will only be 20 feet wide. Municipal sewer was approved for a 5-bedroom, single-family home. The floor plans submitted show only 4 bedrooms in the structure. The structure does not have a basement, The structure appears to be a modular home arriving all at the same time and put together. It is a two-storied traditional style house with window shutters. The single-family residence conforms to the character of the surrounding homes in the area. Also, I put in there section 420 that talks about the village residential district. This property is not in the historical district, or the preservation district is what is called in the zoning. It is up in the village residential district. So it's one step up. Everything that's listed in that village residential district, the property owner had submitted and conformed to. Section 221 for applications. So for the single family home, they needed 2 copies of the plot plan, an elevation drawing, proof that the sewer connection had been approved, and any other possible permits from the state of Vermont, floodplain management, which is not, but they did have their subdivision regulation decision approved. And then locations, identifications, and any specific directions that they will get in the building permit will be the responsibility of the applicant. So as the zoning administrator, looking at the single family home only at Gill Terrace, in accordance with the residential district standards in the village of Ludlow, and the information that I received, the permit number 24-017 was able to be approved. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a question for you, Rose. Go ahead, Phil.
Rose, if you had a building permit such as you're describing, and you found, you were aware of something that was just egregious about it, you said, oh my God, if they put this barn here or house here, whatever, it's really going to affect A, B, and C over here, unequivocally. How would you handle that? What would the process be from your office if you just knew that this is going to be a major problem or a serious problem?
Well, I'm not really sure what kind of serious problem. I mean, other than not meeting the setbacks, which is a serious problem, it would be denied and referred to the DRB. We would talk to them first to see if they could move it. In this case, the contractor moved the driveway from the bottom of the parcel closer to the Stewart's property to the upper area of the parcel, and took the driveway up there, and so it wasn't right in their backyard.
So would your only course be to deny the permit?
Correct.
If you felt that it was something that was just dangerous?
That's correct. I don't have the authority to, tell them to move the house or do this or do that. They would either have to, if they don't meet setbacks, then they only have to be denied. Everything else doesn't really, other than the structure, the sewer, the driveway, that is all based on someone else's approval. If they don't have municipal sewer approved, then they won't get a permit either.
Any other questions for Rose from the board?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
I was under the impression.
You have to speak into the mic for them to hear you.
I was under the impression that when an application went before the zoning administrator, that they would review it or refer it to the DRB for review or deny it. And given the fact that there was a folder for the subdivision that didn't have a plan but had a permit for a 5-bedroom house, that would have set up some red flags for the zoning department to look at what the concerns were before they granted approval, because now we're working backwards. And it just, it puts everybody in a really awkward position, and I'm trying to wrap my head around
If I
how it
might, I
works.
might be able to clarify. When it was subdivided, there was no building plan. It could have been a croquet court, it could have been just a field, but we had some concerns. We were promised then, and we mentioned those concerns, we were promised then that those concerns were not, it wasn't appropriate to address them at that time because there was no building. But now there is a building plan and we are voicing our concerns. So I don't know if we dropped the ball, but I don't think so, because we've been diligent about following the progress of this, and it seems like the issues, now is the time to address them. Again, I'm unfamiliar with how the process works, but the lighting, the storm water, I don't know which way the roof sheds. Not that it does apply to the water. Those are my concerns, that I just want to be heard and I want to be treated fairly, because I'm unfamiliar with the process, and I just want our concerns, and our neighbor, the Elmakers, have concerns as well. Just want those addressed. That's all I'm hoping
So
for.
we'll go to her next. But just to
Thank
answer
you.
your question, this is the next process.
Okay, so
You appealed the approved decision.
So we did it the
and
right way.
Yes, yeah.
It then goes to us.
Okay,
So
thank you.
so you are in the next level of the process. Does anyone, before we move on to the next ladies, and I believe she was a co-applicant?
Yes, that's
Does anyone have any more questions for Rose before we move on?
No.
From the board. Okay. And Kathleen, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to, and again, I sent over a letter, kind of stating our objections and items that we'd like addressed. I sent an original message, and as they pointed out, they moved the house between the time I sent my letter and this hearing, so I've amended them a little bit, but still, they've moved the house. It appears closer to, I live on 3 High Street, so next to Mark and Leslie, but my property runs back. And so although there's talk in Rose's about there being, 96 feet back, that's well behind my property. My carriage house will sit very close, right, to this house that's proposed to go in. It's a historic, I'm in the preservation district. I have concerns about the house. All we see are plans. There's no foundation plan. So some elevation, it's on a steep slope. I don't really know what this house is going to look like, or what they're going to dig out and put some sort of foundation. I'm assuming it's going to sit on something, and it has to be leveled. I'm assuming the driveway also has to be somewhat level across where they're putting it. And we've heard talk that there's going to be retaining walls, but we haven't seen anything, what that actually looks like. And again, what that water does coming down through the back of my property, obviously downhill into Mark and Leslie's house. We have a lot of concerns because it's very loosey-goosey from my perspective on how this house is going to sit and where it's going to sit and what the elevation's going to be. It says it's, I don't know, 29 feet tall, but the slope is very steep. It's unclear what that's going to look like once it has its decks attached, and what that means from a privacy standpoint from both Mark and Leslie and our property, my husband and I. And we've been there 15 years. It's a very quiet little corner of the town. I'm also concerned about how much driveway space is there. It's again another property that's bought by an LLC. It doesn't appear to be a single family home. So I don't know what the regulations are, but the way I look at it, it looks like it's a tourist home that's going to be rented, and it would need additional parking spaces for every bedroom that's there. I don't know with a 20-foot wide driveway how many cars they're planning, but I assume they have to have 4 parking spaces. Again, we'd like to understand how that's all going to look so that we can understand once the snow piles up, what that's going to look like and all that water that's coming downhill onto our properties. We don't see anything about exterior lighting or screening in any of the plans that we've seen. So we'd just like to have that concerned. In my letter, it looks like you have regulations about that, but I don't see anything actually in the building permit.
Thank you very much. Yep, go ahead, Phil.
I know you guys are all nervous about the process, and it's scary stuff. But this is the process, and it's not going to end we're going to get this information, and we're going to get it from the builder. We're going to come up with mitigation plans. We're going to address the issues that have been brought up regarding screening, lighting, water runoff, the house designs, all of it, we're going to see. So I just want you to know that this is the beginning of this new phase of the project, and this is how it has to roll.
George? I have one question regarding it. You will.
Just remember, you guys speak into the mic so they can hear.
You will, I guess the way it works, you will research and investigate our concerns. And I don't know whether that just you come to a conclusion regarding it, or if do we have more input that we are offered to, or a chance to offer more? I'm not sure how that works.
The hearing's open, and of course, it's up to the chair, but I have a feeling it'll be recessed pending all this information going out to the builder.
Okay. And then we have another chance to come back. Okay, that's all. Yeah, I was wondering if
that information will be present. Maybe
Okay.
he'll be here. or a
Okay,
representative
I didn't
from
know
him
how
will
that
be here,
works.
and we can talk to him. Oh, I'll be darned. Okay. That-
Just before you speak, you all were sworn in? Yes. Okay. Just before you speak.
That's what I wanted to tell you.
Oh, okay, so, sounds good.
Just
Okay.
really quickly before I'll let Charlie, our contractor, address the technical construction stuff, but just so you know, so we can put a face to the LLC. My name is Marissa Skapansky. This is my husband, John. It's an LLC, not to be a business, but for estate planning only. We had sent you guys a letter stating our intentions. We've been coming to Okemo for years. We love the mountain, we love the town, we've done seasonal rentals, and we're finally in a spot where we can build ourselves a second home that we want to enjoy. And we have 3 teenage kids that, love to ski, that we plan on being up here with them every weekend that we possibly can, and sometimes during the summer. So just so you can put a face to the LLC, that's.
My name's Charlie Elting. I'm the GC on the project. There's nothing loosey-goosey about, we hit everything that's on the town zoning permit. There is, the only thing that I've seen that's incorrect is there is a basement under it. I do have that plan, but I thought I submitted that with the permit. But all these questions are questions that are not on the permit. We're happy to address them, happy to address the screening, the lighting, and, whatever you guys want us to address, but we definitely hit everything that was on that permit, and,
Well, this is the next level, so
Yep.
this is beyond that.
Right.
So I have a question, may I?
Yeah, go ahead, Phil, you got the floor.
So which way does, one of the questions that came up, the way the house is sitting on the lot,
Yeah.
how's the roof, how are the roof
The
lines?
gable faces the road, so
So the water from the roof is gonna head toward their house?
well, the same amount of water that would've hit that lot is gonna head towards, is gonna go downhill. We're gonna address that with our excavation, and, we've got a plan to put it in the storm drain. I guess Jeff Stern says we can do that, and, we're gonna do everything that we can to avoid that, but we're not creating any new water.
Well, it's an impervious surface, so
Yeah.
it's changed. So do you have the plan, do you know what the plan is to address the water coming down the hill, coming off the roof?
What do you mean coming down the hill?
That Mark had to build terraces on his land to stop that.
Yeah.
And that was a yard that soaked it all in, and he still had that problem.
Right.
He's gonna be exasperated
Yeah.
I mean, just when I saw the site visit, I came up with a plan. I'm just curious if you have
Yeah,
one.
you know, Ron Tarbell wants us to pave the skirt so that the water on the road doesn't come into the lot. That all stays in the road. We're planning on putting curtain drains and into the storm drain
Where are the curtain drains? How they running? Where are they?
around the foundation, around the perimeter of the foundation.
Along the fence line
Yeah,
with their property.
yeah,
Could the grade be changed?
it definitely could, sure.
Would you do that?
Yeah,
So that the water doesn't continue?
yeah, I mean, I
rolling
think we're
downhill
gonna
to
have to
their house?
level that for construction, so we're gonna take the slope out of that and send it towards the road.
Could you swale it a little bit? You
Yep,
know, so
for sure.
what
Yeah.
about screening? What do you guys think about screening? Would you be amicable to?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would be happy to work with any of the neighbors with screening. Where we live now, we live in New York, and our houses are all on top of each other, and we always say good fences make good neighbors. So we have fencing, we have arborvitae on one side to give one neighbor privacy. So we are happy to work with them. I mean, we're also going to have outdoor space that if we're up here during the summer or whatever, that, you know, we would want privacy as well if we're out there. So yes, we're happy to work on any of that. And I think I had said in my letter with the lighting, we certainly don't plan anything obtrusive, you know, a front door light, and maybe the side slider would have a light, a motion, you know, type activated light, just whatever you would need to approach the house. But I can't think of anything that would be out of the ordinary as far as lighting goes.
Questions from the board?
I have something to say.
Go ahead, Rose.
So on our building application, it does not have the basement that Charlie just mentioned. And I'm kind of, and we don't have the basement plan. So I'm wondering if that was added after the building permit was taken out, because it's not on there and we don't have the drawings for it. And also adding a basement, is that going to raise the house up more than 28 some odd feet?
Go ahead.
No, it's not gonna raise the height.
So is it possible to provide those plans and incorporate where you said you already have a somewhat existing plan for stormwater?
Yes.
Can you provide that to the board?
In time,
Obviously not right at this moment.
Yeah,
I'm not expecting that.
absolutely.
Would be by next meeting if we chose to recess?
yep. We're definitely gonna, you know, ask for you guys to make a decision on this. You know, Vermont's got a short window for building and we've lost 2 months of it, and, you know, we've got an approved permit, so we're definitely pushing, you know, going to another, waiting for another DRB meeting is, you know, that's a burden for us and my contractors and subs and.
I understand that.
Yep.
How long do you think you'd need to provide the documentation?
For drainage plan and I have the foundation plan right now, so if you gave us 7 days.
Any questions from the board?
I just want to say something real quick. The permit it's now appealed to the DRB, and until they give their decision, there really is no approved permit.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh.
I
Are
know,
you
that
hearing-
was so
I
good.
just
It
wanna-
blew your mind.
I want to go back to the applicants and see where you're at with this right now. You know, are these resolutions that you wanted to hear? Do you want to hear more? Is there something we're missing? Help us out here.
I definitely want to hear more. I mean, this is the.
What else? I mean, we have to be, you know.
I want to
else
see
we-
how the,
What
you know,
other
like where the
evidence?
water goes, if there, so it comes off the roof. That field was a big permeable surface that absorbed the water. Now it's coming off the roof and it's going into a storm curtain drain that goes to the road that I, again, said is already overwhelmed a couple times this year. and often with big rains. And so it's going to run left and right. But I would like to see I'd like to see those plans
Well, he's
personally.
going to
and I don't
provide
know.
them. You just said that.
So I think, and again, I mean, we respect your time and everything else, but we do have concerns. We have lived here for a long time. We don't see ourselves going anywhere, so we want to protect what we have. And it's all well and good to say we're going to put curtain drains in and we're going to do this and we're going to excavate, but if there isn't something that shows exactly what's going to be done, how do we know how it's going to work, how the water's going to flow? And if it doesn't work and the water comes onto our property, what recourse do we have? We've been expressing these concerns, and it's like Phil said, that big lawn was a sponge and it absorbed a lot of water and prevented it from reaching our house, along with the terracing that Mark did. And now we have a driveway, we have a house, we have a roof, we have a deck, and it doesn't indicate where the deck is either. Is it on the back? Is it next to our house? Is it on the other side? And so I think we just want to see more specifics, and if it seems nitpicky, I'm sorry, but I think these need to be addressed just in light of everything that's happening with water in this town.
And I'd just add that, if they would like to address our concerns, we would like to have adequate time to review what those revised plans then are, including this addition of the basement, right? So that we can have our people look at it and make sure that it addresses our concerns, right? Because they're only building it to make sure that their house works. It's not really making sure that it doesn't affect the downhill folks in here.
Thank you. Questions from the board? So just to go over things that we're looking to get some more information on. Basement plans. We're going to have for water mitigation that we talked about, you've got a plan. Let's see ideally where your location of your lighting is. And any site work for drainage or anything like that. Does the board feel like there's any other information that they would like to?
No, I just want to get on the record that the driveway was not going to be tarred only to the curb part.
Just the 8.
That's what you said, yeah. And then the rest would be like a gravel or?
Gravel.
Okay, I just want to ask that. Thank you.
Can I just say something quickly?
Yeah, go ahead, Rose.
While you're thinking about these water studies and runoff and erosion and everything else we've talked about, I just want to point out that the burden of proof is on the appellant, and maybe the neighbors can work together and work on this, but the appellants they're the ones that should be having something given to the board to prove that there's that much water coming off it, and this is going to cause a hardship for them, and so on and so forth, because that's the way it works. So I just wanted to say that. I mean, there's a lot of things that Leslie and Mark, I wasn't able to do during this single family residence permit, but that's where, like they said, that's where this application and this hearing comes into it.
Go ahead.
When, I'm trying to think, it says, and it's one of the things that we submitted, and it says, the board shall require the developer, this is Town of Ludlow subdivision regulations, planning and building designs, the board shall require the developer to submit data addressing impacts relative to the following standards: character of the land, blah, 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 and it says without undue adverse impact on neighboring properties. So why do we have to prove that this building isn't going to impact our property when the zoning regulation says that the board can require the developer to submit this information? And the same thing with the landscaping and screening. And so I respectfully disagree with you, Rose, on that, because it says that you can ask the developer for that information. We don't have to prove it.
Right,
Am I-
but that's
am I
Leslie,
incorrect?
That's the subdivision regulations, which is different than the zoning regulations. But the reason why you would have to prove, burden of proof is on the appellants is because you've appealed. So it's almost like going to court, and you're talking to a quasi judicial board that is on the record. So it's just like going to court. That's exactly what it is. And the subdivision regulations don't come into play here.
So I had a quick one. If
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's appropriate, would I have an opportunity, like I have photographs of when they first applied to subdivide it, I started taking photographs of when the road gets flooded and the town out there shoveling out the storm drains. I don't know if those are relevant photographs of guys cleaning out the storm ditch or my dead tree that's got to come down. Like, is that appropriate info that I should be presenting? I guess is my question. Photographs of.
Well, we will take all evidence. What Rose is saying is that you have to provide a quantifiable evidence that you are receiving some sort of, that you would be receiving damages
Right, I
from
understand.
this. The reason that as the applicant on this appeal is that it's to prevent from someone crying wolf. And so you're voicing a concern. We are here listening and accepting evidence for consideration. We will gladly take all evidence that you have to provide. So if you have additional evidence providing proof of the condition that you stated, please provide that to the board.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions from the board?
Just have another point to make. I mean, you guys did a
Go ahead,
site
ma'am.
visit, and you can see it's on a steep slope. So I don't think our concerns are unfounded about asking for where the water on this property is going to go and making sure it doesn't have a deleterious effect on the properties below it. So I guess I'm a little bit concerned too that Rose would say somehow we have to prove that. We're saying, listen, it's a permeable piece of land now, and it's going to be highly impermeable with a house on it. And we'd like our concerns addressed as to where all this stormwater is going to go, what the actual elevation of the house is going to be sitting on a foundation, right? And the screening and the lighting that are clearly in the regulations for the town.
So we've already sort of addressed some of that. They said they do have plans for the basement, which they will be providing, and some of the water drainage that they had mentioned, and they'll be providing that to the board for review. So that is some of the answers to your question. They did discuss a little bit on lighting. We can touch on that again. But all lighting that's put up inside the village is all downcast lighting, nothing that shines out over onto other people's property. Is there other specific, based off the information we have today, is there other concerns that you have?
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Are we clear on how many parking spaces are going to be for this house, since it's an
So we're just going to
LL?
have Phil go first, ma'am, sorry.
So for the builders, for you guys, do you guys have a pretty good idea where this is going? What your responsibilities are here?
Yes.
So,
I've got all the questions that we're gonna address.
So, yeah, so if you're gonna get a dozer in there and move the land around, kind of give us an idea of the grades, where that water's going, you're hearing what their concerns are. I just want to.
Yes, and we're certainly not looking to cause anybody any.
No, I'm sure you're not. I just want to be sure that you're clear on what they're concerned about. And they're concerned about. Okay, that's.
Can you just raise a question from our perspective?
Yep, just make sure you go up to the mic so everyone can hear you, sorry.
Just timing questions, because like Charlie said, we've lost 2 months already, and the building season is short, and we are kind of on a timetable with our modular builder as well. How will the timing work? If Charlie can get you within the next week the documentation that we need, it can be reviewed, or we have to wait for the next meeting in a month?
The next DRB meeting would be your next time that we'd have.
Okay.
I think this lady has something to say.
What do you think, Phil?
You could.
You could? Yeah.
You could close this like in 2 weeks and say, we'll close it in 2 weeks, but run all the evidence in 1 week. Gives them guys, the appellants, a week to review it.
What's the board's purview?
Just a thought. That's one way, that's one road to go.
Okay. You guys okay with that? Okay, question for the appellates. Would 1 week of time to review the documentation provided be enough?
So
I'm out of the country until the 1st of June, so I won't have time to look at anything until then.
Yeah, I imagine it'll take us a little bit. We don't have much, I guess, on our side. It would mostly be Charlie.
I do appreciate their concern in the time frame.
Yeah, I understand. That's what I'm trying to.
We do have the ability to close a hearing at a set date before there would be another hearing. And the option that was proposed by Phil Carter would be we could potentially close the hearing in 2 weeks with all documentation required within 1 week, giving everyone 1 week to review the information and then for you to respond in writing. And then the board would then, after the hearing is closed, deliberate on the decision. And that would then provide a answer in a slightly more expedited way to accommodate them. And the question to you is that, do you think having that information provided to you for 1 week would be sufficient for you to review it?
Yeah, I guess it's reasonable.
And provide a written response?
No.
I suppose it's reasonable. I just want, again, I just want to be treated fairly like anyone else in town with a building going in next door. I expect it, I would hope that it goes through the exact same process, that whether it's the next meeting or if you speed it up, I don't want it accelerated. I've been here 30 years and I don't want to see it rammed through, and I do appreciate your concern with it getting started. I totally appreciate that. I'm a builder as well. But I don't want to see it, ramrodded through at our expense. I just want to be treated fairly, and I do
understand
think
that.
2 weeks, thank you, that's all.
You have a response, so go ahead.
I just want to make the point that we did answer every question on Ludlow's, permit to build. We're being asked to do extra, stuff that isn't on that permit now, and, time is a huge factor for us. So I think the fact that we're going out of our way to accommodate all that stuff, when everything was approved, but
I'd
got
have to say, in
appealed.
fairness, though, you did not mention the basement, the cellar till today, in fairness.
Yeah. Yep, my mistake. But I thought it was in there. But I don't think that's going to affect what we're talking about much. But
What's the purview of the board?
This lady has mentioned that that's not.
Sorry, so go ahead. Sorry.
So I don't think that timing works for me. I'm out of the country until the end of the month, so I would at least have 3 weeks so that we can have time to look at whatever is provided and, as you said, respond in writing back to you.
Thanks for your comment. So, go ahead.
So they have email and stuff, she can read it over the internet.
Yeah, we can't base decisions on people's travel plans.
Yeah, travel plans do not affect decisions.
I make a motion, we go along with Phil's I think we should go with Phil's motion.
I didn't make a motion.
Well, you could make one.
Do you want to I'll entertain the motion from you, Phil, or if you?
No, go right ahead, George.
No.
So I'm going to make the motion because we all know what's needed here. You guys know, you also understand that this permit could just simply get denied. So the onus is on you to step up here. We can deny it, and that's that. You start from scratch again. So in that light, what we're looking for is to mitigate these concerns and hopefully come to an agreement, an understanding. So my motion is to close the hearing in 2 weeks. In 1 week, you guys have all the stuff that we've talked about front and center into the planning office, so that these guys have 1 week to look at it, review it, write comments on it, and then it comes to us for decision. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Discussion. So just as a clarification, we would be putting Monday, May 27th is when it would close.
Which is
And
a
all
holiday.
documents. Oh,
Oh, Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Office is closed that day.
Office is closed that day. So, May 20, which is? 28th, Tuesday, with all documents due by May 20th. Just to put those dates on the record. Okay. Any other discussion from the board on this motion?
I'm sorry, did you say May 28th or May 20th?
So the hearing would close on May 28th with all documents due on May 20th to allow a amount of time to be reviewed and any comments provided to the board.
Thank you.
No problem. Yep, of course, this is the time, so we're in the discussion
It just
phase.
has to do with the process. So we're doing an accelerated hearing, which I understand. So Charlie submits the documentation to you by the 20th.
That is correct.
We all review it in a week.
That is correct.
And then we have another meeting here or by Zoom or?
No.
No, you
You
don't
will
have a
provide
meeting.
your comments via letter
Okay.
to the planning
And then
office.
there's no discussion. You make a
So
decision.
Then the decisions that are made by this board are made in deliberative session with
That
no.
we're not a part
That
of.
you are not a part of, ma'am. And so that would be, is that based off the motion that is on the table, that would be the process. And that would take into account. Yep, sorry, go
I guess
ahead.
my question is, how do we, so he provides the information, you guys review it, and we review it, but,
You
and we
can
make
prov-
comments, but we don't get to voice them, or we do
You
it
do.
just by
You have a week.
You have 1 week to voice them via.
At that, on the meeting on the 28th, we can,
There is no meeting. You would provide a letter, just as you've previously written
Okay.
letters, that you would write that would be your.
okay.
So
That would be our-
you're gonna look at their evidence.
Right.
And say, hey, this works great.
Right,
Thank you for
right.
doing this. Or you're gonna say, no, it doesn't work because of A,
And I'll
B,
make a
C,
note.
D.
Okay.
We're gonna review that and we're either gonna agree with you or not.
Okay.
At that point. So
Okay.
it's,
It just seems, I don't know, I guess that's how the process works. We don't have another in-person meeting to,
And a week to like have an expert for us. What if we can't get somebody to look at it? to help
yeah, we
us
need
make a
to, we need an
decision?
engineer or something.
It's, and again, I mean, I apologize for
if that's
dragging it, but it's
if that's the case and you convince the board that you want to get an engineer now
Okay.
and so on and so forth, we can reopen the hearing for additional evidence.
Okay.
Such as we
But
did.
I write down my, okay, I think I understand.
So it's that process. So basically, all we're doing is instead of just coming next June and having the same discussion
Yes,
again,
yes.
we're just pushing it up a couple weeks.
Okay, I think I understand. Thanks for
Problem.
accommodating us.
Any further questions?
No.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, so that's the plan.
There we go. Thank you very much, folks. Next on the agenda is we are going to review the minutes from April 8th.
Number one,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
oh, sorry.
May I address the minutes of April 8th?
We haven't done them yet.
We haven't even pulled them out. but
Okay.
sure, you have comments on,
I do, so.
okay,
I-
give 1 second here.
Okay,
I
no
have some
worries.
also.
So, everyone got their minutes ready? Okay.
On number one, you have one on number one?
I'm not sure what number it was. I just have a general,
You don't have a,
Oh, okay. So
General,
is yours a correction to the minutes or a comment on the
I
minutes?
think so. I think it's in addition to the minutes.
Okay, so let's hear your, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Alan Couch, 21 Meadow Street. In the hearing, I guess it was down the list somewhere on Okemo Limited Liability, there's a gentleman named Bruce McGrath who submitted testimony in that hearing, and he was not listed. He appeared via Zoom, and he was not listed in the public present. So his name wasn't on the list of people present.
it is under number 10.
Okay.
He is mentioned.
We will make, oh, he
He's
is?
mentioned under number 10.
Right, but he's not listed under the people present.
Okay. We will
It
make
just
sure that
says
gets
first
added to
page.
that one.
It just says he is an owner.
No, but he's not under
No,
the
is that his name just needed to be added to the public record.
public part.
Yep.
And for the record, the couch on the screen tonight is my wife Kathy Couch, so you don't think I'm voting twice. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead,
Okay,
Julie.
just number one, I just wanted to ask if we could delete the word present on the end because it's redundant.
Oh, okay. Yep, okay.
Just because it sounds like you aren't sure if he was there or not. Roman number 3, on page 1, number 4, on the bottom, I just have a question. It says name, so I'm assuming we didn't know who said this comment. Name, ask how you can move. And I don't think we know who made that.
I think I made it.
Okay.
Okay, Phil?
So 4 should be my name.
Okay.
I have some other ones before that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Phil.
We need some clarification on the Tucker hearing. So on page 1, number 4, it says Phil Carter asks, what is the 1.9 acre lot? What I asked was the 1.9 acre lot going to be added to tax lot 10-2-24? Because he's adding
Which one are
some,
you on, sorry?
Page 1.
number 4, page 1.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
Because Bill was doing some lot line adjustments, so this just clarifies that the 1.9 acre lot is going to be added to tax lot number 10-2-24. And that's what that lot line adjustment is. And on number 6, same thing. He says he's going to take 9.1 acres, erase a boundary line and attach it to the other lot, and that lot is tax lot 10-2-24. And again, on number 7, at the last sentence, this leaves them with 2 lots, 3.14 and 4.24 acre lots, which will be added to tax lot 10-2-18. That just clarifies where
Yep.
these
No,
things
no,
are
no,
going.
all good.
And on number 10, the last sentence, if you can move the well and the shield, that is great. If you can't, you can come, we should say, to some understanding, or to, why did I write that? If you move, yeah.
You can come to understanding.
Because there's already an existing well shield that it covers
Yeah.
3/4 of the same area of the neighbor's land,
So I
like,
guess that's okay.
depiction on the map.
On number 6, for the Okemo Limited
Okay.
Liability, number 6, George Tucker notes we have letters in hand and getting a letter from Stephanie. Can we just clarify that that's Stephanie from the ambulance?
Okay.
All right.
Yep. Okay.
I had that
Grover?
circled.
Over.
Yep.
And number 13, on page 2 at the top,
Okay.
right where, before CPR, we should put regarding. So concerned about the ambulance conditions regarding CPR training.
And Phil, I have one right before that also. Just that I think there needs the word "is" in the first sentence. Alan Couch asked if the replacement magic carpet is going to be bigger,
Yes, yep, okay.
just because it makes it easier to understand it. And then I'll take your correction also.
I had one correction under other business.
Can I just do
Oh,
one?
sorry, do you have another one? No?
Last one on two, just to spell my name correctly on the bottom. Motion by Julie Nicole.
Which one is that on?
On page two, the very bottom, I just,
The very bottom, number 2.
Oh, okay, yep, okay. And then under other business, where they reference, so George Tucker says the hearing has closed, and it's actually, their hearing is recessed, not closed.
okay.
Any other amendments to the minutes?
I make a motion that we accept them as corrected for April 8th, 2024.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And next, anything under other business?
Somebody in the audience?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Eric Alden, Chelside Road. Just a point of order, question. Earlier in testimony, Mr. Jowdy read a comment or question from anonymous. I'm curious if, as this is an on-the-record board, if comments from anonymous folks are permitted, and if they're not, then that probably should not be part of the record. Thank you.
Being that we don't know who that was, that will not be used in the determination of the decision. Go ahead, Mr. Couch.
Good afternoon, and I didn't mention it before, but welcome home, Mr. Carter. I have just a clarification, if I may. If the state issues, let's say, a permit of some sort, an Act 250 permit, would the applicant still need to abide by the rules and regulations of the village or town zoning and flood hazard regulations? For example, if somebody got an Act 250 permit, or they would still have to meet the criteria of a building permit through the zoning office or a potential DRB review.
Yep, so
Okay.
your local Act 250 review is conducted at the DRB.
Okay, so if somebody were to do grading in a special flood hazard area, they would need to get a conditional use permit from this board? Or a local
Okay,
flood hazard
for
area?
that particular case, is that something, I'd put that to the floodplain manager, but it sounds like something that they would want to probably know. Lois? So you're
And
you're
this-
referencing grading in the
I will,
flood.
I will talk about that. That was a violation that has been remedied. So that was part of the remedy. The floodplain managers for the state of Vermont at the Agency of Natural Resources, they were the ones that said that needed to be done immediately. Unfortunately, there was a death and it wasn't able to be done at the time. So with some other work that was done on the house, we needed to issue a notice of violation saying that they needed to do their work above base flood elevation, which was some work in the basement and stuff like that. But then the berm was a big part of it, and it is on the riverbank. But the Ned Swanberg and Kyle Mindash, who are our new floodplain managers, they were very aware of what was going on, and have probably got pictures or visited the site. And there's also a sale coming up on the house, hopefully, and they've done everything that they were supposed to do.
So just as a comment from the board is that I'm not aware of the case that you're discussing, but we'll gladly answer any question or to the best of our ability. But obviously the planning office is open 5 days a week, and they can probably answer your questions better, more pertaining to the exact, obviously you were referencing a particular case that we were not presently aware of on our docket.
Correct, and I understand that, but just as a point of clarification, I assume that grading in a flood hazard area, special flood hazard area, whether it's dictated by the state by a violation of a notice of violation. I would assume since Table 5.1 and Article 6, Number 7 says grading is a conditional use and needs to come.
Right.
And same thing on Table 5.2 in the special flood hazard area. Number 10, grading, excavating, or creation of a pond in the special flood hazard area is a conditional use, and I assume that needs to come before this board.
Being I don't know the other circumstances, I would have pulled out the regulations and read the same things. But that's where directing that to the planning office for the right people to get on the docket and
I will take that forward from here. Thank you.
No, I appreciate your comments, though. Anything under other business? I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.